Okay, the next tutorial that we are going to look at is the Explore Shapes tutorial in the Learn section on Adobe Illustrator. So go ahead and open that tutorial up, Start Tutorial. When you see this, you're going to see two work areas. You're going to see your work area, and then you're going to see an example of a finished product. We're not going to get quite as advanced with all those different lines and colors and all that, but this is going to show you just some basics in using shapes. So we're going to begin by creating the rectangle shapes for the birdhouse using the dashed lines as guidance. So first of all, we're going to select the rectangle tool. My ellipse tool is selected, so I'm going to click and hold, and that's going to show the nested tools. I'll use the rectangle tool. I'm going to drag over the red dashed line to make a rectangle that will become the bird perch. So I'm going to start in that corner, and I'll click and drag carefully, and that's going to be the bird perch. Drag over the green dashed line shape to make the roof of the birdhouse. So I'm going to click again using the rectangle tool, dragging from corner to corner of that dotted guide. To draw a perfect square, you're going to press the Shift key and drag over the orange dashed line. Release the mouse button and then the Shift key. So I'm going to find the corner that I want to begin with. I'm going to press Shift, and then I'm going to click and drag. And you can see that it makes a perfect square, which fits perfectly in the guide. Rounding corners. Most shapes in Illustrator are live, which means that you can transform them using on-screen widgets to round corners, for example. So select the zoom tool. If it's in the, it might be stacked underneath the hand. You're going to click on the smallest rectangle to enlarge your view. Select on the selection tool and click on that smallest rectangle. You can see it becomes selected. Drag any of the 4 circles in the rectangle's corners toward the shape center. Stop when you see a red highlight on the corners. That means you can't round them anymore. So if you want to have rounded corners, you can see that sometimes you want your rectangles to have just a slight round on them, but if you bring them all the way in, you get this fully rounded rectangle. From the menus above, choose View Fit Artboard in the window to see everything again. View Fit Artboard in window. And we'll go to the next step. Reshaping objects. So shapes are made of anchor points and paths. Now you're going to use the direct selection tool to move a point to reshape the roof. So select the direct selection tool. So this is different than the selection tool. It's a solid arrow. Click on that. Click inside the skinny long rectangle to select it as shown. The blue boxes that you see on the corners are called anchor points. They control the shape. So click the blue point on the upper right of the rectangle and select it. I'm going to click on that. Make sure that you release it. Okay, if I just simply went from having the shape selected and then clicked and dragged, it would actually move the entire piece, and that's not what I want to do for this. So instead, I'm going to click on that individual anchor point, and it becomes selected. So look at the rectangle now. Notice that the point you clicked on is blue while the rest are hollow. So that means that that's selected. You can see that these other ones are just indications that the anchor points are there, but they're not selected. So drag that blue point up to reshape the roof. You know what? I accidentally selected the path. So let me try that again. I'm just going to click on the anchor point, and then I'm going to click and drag that up. Just like that. All right, and that fits the guide. So I'm going to go to my next step, adding a circle to the artwork. Lots of shapes. There are a lot of shapes that you can create. Now you're going to create a circle to make the window for the birdhouse. So I'm going to press and hold on the rectangle tool, and I'll select the ellipse tool. So I find the rectangle tool, press and hold it, I'll choose the ellipse tool. Press the shift key and drag over the dashed blue circle to draw a perfect circle. Release the mouse and then the shift key. So I want it to be this shape. Imagine a line coming off of the top and going to the left, and a line going up from the right. That's about where you want that point to be as you click and drag. So I'm going to go ahead and click and press shift and drag it, and then I'm going to release the click and then release shift. Don't worry if the circle doesn't align with the dashed line. You'll move it soon. The box around the circle is called a bounding box. It's useful for rotating, resizing, and more. We're going to assemble the birdhouse. So I'm going to use the selection tool. You know where that is by now, right up here. Select it. I'm going to drag the circle onto the center of the square to the right, somewhere in there. Drag the rounded rectangle onto the left side of the larger rectangle to make a perch for the birds. You can see the guide marks where it goes roughly. Drag the roof shape to the top of the square until the right edges are aligned. You'll know that the two shapes are aligned when a vertical magenta guideline appears over the right edge of the shapes. So these guides are really, really useful tools. So you can see once it's aligned, it's perfect. And I'm going to just bring that down just a little bit to follow the guides, and I'll release it. The perch and the roof are behind the square because you made those shapes first. Objects are stacked in the order that they're created. So that's an important thing to remember. Objects are stacked in the order that you create them. Now you can always go back and rearrange them, but that's something to keep in mind as you move forward. After drawing shapes, you can refine them further by resizing, rotating, and repositioning them. So we're going to click on the large square, and we're going to make the square a bit skinnier to create better proportions. Drag the point on the left side of the square to the right to make it a little narrower. All right, made that just a little bit thinner. And then we'll click next. Combining shapes. Next, you'll see how you can combine simple shapes to make a unique new shape. With the shape still selected, press the shift key and click the roof shape above it to select them both. So you can see that the square is selected, but I need to select the roof shape. Press shift and click, and now they're both selected. Then I'm going to choose the shape builder tool, which is this icon over on the left. I'm going to drag through the shapes to merge them into one as shown. So I've just created a new shape from two different shapes. Select the selection tool. With the shape selected, in the Properties panel, click the box to the left of the word Fill. Okay, so this is your Properties panel. Fill is up here, and I'm just going to click on that color box, which will bring up the swatches. And I'm going to fill it with, maybe let's just do this orange. All right. Then click on the small rounded rectangle and select it and change the color to that shape of the same color. Sorry, so we're going to make these both the same color. So I'll select that pill, click fill, and choose the color to make it match. Voila! You have a beautiful birdhouse built. You did it! With a strong foundation and shapes, you can move on to learn how to colorize your artwork.